And we are thrilled through SEL4NJ to bring you the series of free webinars, 9 in total, that we really have just had leaders in the field that have offered their services and their time to create these with us. So welcome. And I should say I am Liz Hanson-Warner. I am the president of SEL4NJ, and I'm just really excited to be here with you today. So what we're going to do is just a teensy quick overview as to what is SEL4US and what is SEL4NJ, and then we're going to get right into the the main purpose of today, which is the webinar. So for those of you who may not be aware, SEL4NJ is a state affiliate of SEL4US. And as you can see, these states are spread across the United States, coast to coast, as well as in the center of the country. All of these different states are working to promote, connect, advocate for really high quality SEL. New Jersey was one of the very, very first states to become an SEL4US affiliate. And we have over 2,600 members made up of educators, community partners, organizations and associations, as well as I think I got everyone, associations, organizations, SEL providers, educators, and community partners. So it's a wonderful cross-section of those who really believe in education in the state of New Jersey. It's kind of what we do. And so SEL Day, some of you may have been longtime participants in SEL Day. It was started 4 years ago. This photo was taken in year 2 because year 1 was COVID when we were all at home. And the whole idea of SEL Day is just to celebrate and make visible all the great work that we know you're doing in your schools every day. So again, it's been a wonderful success of raising awareness around the world. This year, 6 Seconds has joined as the partners to bring in the international friends and schools. So we're really excited. So the idea is to, on SEL Day, create an artifact, a video, a photo, anything. It can be as little as you want or as huge as you want, and just share it on SEL Day. Hashtag SEL Day and SEL4NJ would be great. And or attend an event like this. So last year, huge success. This year, we expect it to be equal, if not better. The thing that's really interesting here is that so many states are issuing proclamations and resolutions honoring SEL Day. And then again, the 40 million views from across the social media platforms. So please be sure to start posting on social media platforms on Friday. And again, how to celebrate SEL Day, just create an artifact and share it on SEL Day. And remember, hashtag SEL Day and tag SEL4NJ. And likewise, maybe share a few words about your experience attending one of these sessions. That would be a great thing to share on SEL Day. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't need to cost any money at all or much time. Just be part of the movement. That would be great. And there's lots and lots of resources on selday.org. So if you're kind of stuck or you just want to more information, just please go on to selday.org. That's also how you sign up for SEL Day and how you also sign up for the full day summit on Friday, which again, these are nationally known speakers that'll be speaking around really important topics. And that's of course free as well. And you automatically are registered for that when you sign up on selday.org for SEL Day. So with that said, we are going to start our program today, and we are just thrilled to have Bill Trusheim, Lori Coletti, and Mary Reinhold here from NJASECD. And for those of you who aren't aware, that stands for the New Jersey Alliance of Social, Emotional, and Character Development, otherwise known as the people who really coordinate and run and lead the Schools of Character program here in New Jersey. They are going to be talking about how do you become a school of character and what is looked for and everything that's involved. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Bill, Lori, and Mary. But also for those of you who are just wondering, this has come up in the past. This link that you are on today also works for the session that follows at 12:40. And this is, and again, an amazing speaker, Erica Brenton. She'll be talking about school-wide behavioral expectations and how to really make them manageable for kids so that kids can really thrive. So again, same link, same place, just an hour and a bit after this. So with that said, I am going to stop sharing and turn this over to my colleagues from NJASCCD.
Well, thanks, Liz. Thanks for that introduction. I'm Bill Trussheim. I'm the president of NJASCCD. As Liz said, one of our primary tasks is to run the Schools of Character program for the state of New Jersey. The schools who participate in that actually go through a process that is really a school improvement process, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But before I share my screen and we get into the presentation, I'd like to say just a few things about myself and then turn it over to Lori and Mary to tell you a little bit about themselves. I've been in education for 53 years in New Jersey. I have been doing this work since I was a teacher. I was also a supervisor. I was also a director. I was also a vice principal. I was a principal, and I was a superintendent. So I went the whole route in those years. I retired in 2012 as a superintendent of schools. And since that time, I've been pretty exclusively doing this work with a variety of different organizations. The point of this work is to make schools a better place for everyone in the school, adults and children and communities. And that's the work that we do. And I'm very happy to say that, we most every year we lead the nation in the number of schools of character, state schools and national schools of character. And that's a tribute to our organization, which is all volunteer. And I'd like to now turn it over to Lori, who is our vice president, and she'll tell you just a little bit about herself.
Thank you, Bill. My name is Laurie Coletti. I'm the principal of James A. McDivitt Elementary School in Old Bridge. I've been in teaching just a little over 40 years. I started out as a teacher. I've been a vice principal. I was at the high school, I was at the middle school. Now I'm at the elementary school. It's been a really terrific career for me. I started with NJASECD a few years back. My school is very involved in character education and outreach for character education. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, and I'll turn it over to Mary.
Thank you, Lori. My name is Mary Reinhold, and I have been in education for approximately 40 years also. And I was at Maccapin Middle School in West Milford, New Jersey for the whole entire time. I was a teacher, assistant principal, and ultimately the principal who retired in 2016 and was asked to come back last year to do an interim stint as the principal of Maccapin once again. That time made me believe that the work that we're doing is very, very important. And we believe in this. My school was the first school in New Jersey to be a national school character, and all 8 schools are now national schools of character, as well as the district of character. So I'm very proud of that. I love the work that I do, and I thank Bill Trussheim for getting me involved when I retired looking for something to do. So I serve as secretary to the NJASCCD right now, and as I said, very happy to be in that position. So thank you and enjoy the seminar.
Okay, if you'll just give me a second, I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started with the actual information. Hopefully you can see that. Our session is titled Creating Schools of Character and Social Emotional Competence. Now, and when you talk about creating schools of character, we're not necessarily just talking about schools becoming national and state or national schools of character. What we're talking about is the process that a school could use to become a school where character and social emotional competence is an important facet of the school. And whether or not you choose to become a school of character or not, I think that effort is beneficial to everybody in the school. And as Mary said, returning after the pandemic, I think that this work is even more important to focus than it was previous. What we have found is that schools that have been doing this work have been able to weather all the storms in education more successfully. And I think we find that from the character ed perspective, and we also find it from the social emotional learning perspective. And the skills and the strengths that we talk about for character education, the strengths and the five castle domains plus other learning and skills really do prepare kids for success in school and beyond. And schools that do this really do benefit. So what we're going to do today, we've already done the introductions and the welcome. We talked a little bit about NJASECD. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We're going to talk about the importance of SECD, and we're going to focus a little bit on the intersection of social emotional learning and character development, character education. Sometimes people see these as two separate fields. We do not. We see them as an integrated field, and we will talk a little bit about the connection between the castle competencies and core values, which really are at the foundation of the character education movement. We're going to talk a little bit about how work in SEL and character education impacts school culture and climate, which is the third concept that's really important. And we'll talk a little bit about steps you can take, and we're going to overview the 11 principles, which is a framework for a school improvement that is used for schools that wish to apply for schools of character. So that's just a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. What I'm going to ask you to do, if you didn't see it in the chat, as we go on here today, I'd like you to enter your name, the school or the organization that you represent, note your position, note your email in the chat if you would like to receive information from us following the session. That would include both the PowerPoint and any other assistance you might want if you decide to do this work. And I'd like you to also enter into the chat whether or not your school is already doing work in SEL and character development. Because I think in my opinion, every school, once they look at it, is doing that work in some way, shape, or form. Just a question of realizing it, kind of inventorying what's going on, and understanding and labeling what you're doing. So if you could enter those things in the chat, and you can do that while we proceed here. And Lori and Mary, for the moment, are going to look and see what's there. And also, you can enter your questions in the chat, and we will try to address those as we go along. So, getting started now, here's the mission of NJASECD. And essentially, what we do is we're a nonprofit, all volunteer organization that is committed to helping schools achieve this mission that's on the screen right now. Our primary goal or our primary activity happens to be the School of Character program. But as I said before, that doesn't always mean that a school is going to apply. But what it does mean is that if schools want to use this framework as an improvement framework, I think that's certainly very appropriate as well. And our goal is to help schools do this work. And as I say before, we have found this work to be beneficial to schools. We've had schools, both Mary's school and Lori's school have been named schools of character multiple times. They did it once and they realized that wasn't the end of the journey. that they did it once and they realized the benefit, and so they've kept working at it. And I think that we have an awful lot of schools in New Jersey that do that, and that's a tribute to how they feel about the work. It's not just getting this award and saying, "Hey, we got this award." It's getting this award, saying this is really good, a good thing to do. And we've had so many schools outreach to other schools, which really helps us be successful. So let's talk about character first. The character strengths and core values are really divided into four different, and this again is courtesy of character.org, but there are really four different categories of core values: moral and ethical, honesty and integrity, caring and compassion, gratitude and courage; performance values, which include self-discipline, responsibility, goal setting, grit. I put resilience in there as well. Intellectual values, including curiosity and carefulness, intellectual autonomy. Sometimes that's not always valued in our system and our kids, but we think it's important. Humility and critical thinking, and civic values, respect and fairness, contributing to the common good, and volunteerism. And again, that sort of describes our group. So these sets of core values are really important. And what we do as part of the framework and the process is that we encourage schools to look at their own school in a very objective way and decide what values out of this list. The biggest list I ever saw of core values was 400, which is pretty impressive, but it's also kind of beyond the pale. But we ask schools to decide what kinds of core values should be guiding behavior in the school for everybody. Teachers, administrators, parents, community, and students. And once they come to some kind of a decision about those core values, being able to share that with the community is a really important piece. So, this is very central, and you'll see when we start to talk about the 11 principles, how everything sort of flows from these character strengths and core values. As I said before, there is an intersection in our thinking between character strengths and core values and the SEL competencies. Now, these are courtesy of Castle, and if you're interested in SEL, then you probably know these. But the five competencies are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. And you can see from this slide the kinds of competencies that the sub-competencies in each area. Starting with the self, being able to identify your emotions, being able to have some thought about your own identity, knowing your strengths, and having a sense of self-confidence are all really important foundational pieces. And having gone through now both some character strengths and core values, as well as the Castle competencies, there is a document that was created by Arthur Schwartz, who's the president of character.org. He calls it the National Guidelines. But if you look at the heart logo on the right side of your screen, you can see that on the left side, we're talking about character strengths, the four that we mentioned. On the right side, we're talking about the competencies. And so what he does is he makes a comparison between the moral character and self-awareness, performance character and self-management. And if you'll think back to those strengths as well as the sub-competencies, that's where we saw the similarities: intellectual character and interpersonal and relationship skills, civic character and social awareness, and responsible and ethical decision-making are common to both. So, if you're interested in finding out more, there is a link here to the national guidelines. And what he does with this is he makes these connections, but then he also provides examples, which could be very helpful to you in the classroom. He provides examples of each of the core values or character strengths in the context of different grade level objectives, he does the same thing with the 5 competencies of the Castle 5. And so it could be something that would be very useful to you as you look into how this might work out in your school. So I suggest that you go and follow this link when you get the PowerPoint. And if you do that, then you can actually look at a much more detailed view of what this is all about. We talk about starting with the core values. And as we start with the core values, this is a little bit more about a process that you might want to follow with folks from your school. And I'm going to turn this over to Mary, and she's going to tell you a little bit about how these core values can play out in your school.
Hey, thanks, Bill. Bill already mentioned to you that the core values that's the framework of the school. Okay, it's the expectations that you have for your school. You want to create an ethical self, a best effort self, a critical thinking self, and a common goal self. And it's important that all of your stakeholders be involved in the selection of the core values. So if you're interested in becoming a state school of character, this is principle one. The most important thing is to first get your core values selected and have all of the stakeholders involved in the process. As Bill mentioned, it's moral, performance, intellectual, and civic values all need to be included. And it's based on your needs. When we were attempting to be a school of character in Macoupin, I had to think about what did we need to make this a better place for students and staff. And that's how we came up with our core values. And that's it's a tough job because you really have to think about it, and you have to involve, like I said, all the stakeholders. You must support character education and social and emotional learning. What are the steps you're taking in this journey? How are you bringing this character education to your building, to your students, and focus on a common language? You need to include the students, and they need to understand the core values. They should be a part of every part of the curriculum. Posters in the hallway, posters in the classroom, on your website, built into the curriculum each and every day. Students should speak the language of your core values. The values represent expectations for desired behaviors. You don't want to, you want to see those suspensions go down and the good behavior built up. And that's what I saw in my school as we incorporated more and more of our common language and our core values. As I said before, it should be visible throughout the school. Parents should be able to tell you what your core values are. The community. We're going to talk a little bit later on community service and service learning. And that's so important and is built into your core values. And activities to represent your core values and to make them alive in your school. So as you can see, as scorers, what we do is we look to see, do they have a good set of core values? Was everybody involved in the decision-making process? And how is it being dealt out in the school? Do the students understand them? Do the parents understand them? Does the community understand them? Very important to the process. Next slide, Bill. Okay, this is a visual that was given to us by our own Dr. Maurice Elias from Rutgers, and it talks about the jumbled schoolhouse. Bill mentioned before that when you're starting to think about the process of applying for school of character, you look within your walls and you'll see that you're doing many of the things that need to happen. But sometimes there's no order or organization to those things. And this visual is wonderful because you see the top picture shows the jumbled schoolhouse with no organization, no common framework. And the bottom picture shows everything put together with a common purpose and the core values. You have to be sure that your time and resources are used wisely and maximize your existing efforts. You are all doing things towards this effort. Just find out, put it together. Make sure you understand what that is and put it together. Create consistency and order. When we first got our evaluation, the first year that we applied for school character, we were told that our application was all over the place. And that was very true. We were trying to do everything, but we had no organization. So you have to come up with a framework for organization. And it reduces redundancy and streamlines services. You don't want to repeat yourself, but you want to make sure that we're all working under that same umbrella. And it identifies gaps and opportunities in underserved students. You want everyone, like I said before, the biggest thing that I look for in an application is everyone involved in this process. Are all the students, do they have a say? No matter how young, old they are, do they all have a say in what happens within the walls of their school? And get the community involved. Very, very important. The community is a big part of the school, and you want to make sure you bring them in and make them a part of creating this framework that's organized and ready to have students learn and feel safe within the walls of their school. Next one, Bill. Okay, I think this one goes to Lori. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you, Mary. And it's a nice segue into inclusive curriculum. Everything you were saying about making the children feel safe and secure and wanted and that they belong in their school is very important. And it speaks to the inclusive curriculum. There needs to be respect for every learner. Respect for your parents, respect for your teachers, respect for the people who are involved. And it's easy to say, it's hard to do. And we understand that. So that's why when you do choose your core values, that you think about what your school truly needs and how you can bring it to your building and how you can make sure that the children feel accepted, that their differences are celebrated, that you're creating and fostering the and encouraging students to come forward in your school to be fully present and to be themselves and to try and accept other people and tolerant of other people's maybe inabilities. Maybe it's a special ed issue, maybe it's something else, maybe it's a speech issue, but for the children to learn how to help one another and how to get better at doing that is a very, very, very important skill for them to grow and learn to be respectful to one another. There's a variety of learning platforms. Yes, there are many different things that you're doing in your school, and every school has fabulous, fabulous things. So bringing this type of thing into your school, bringing character education and SEL into your school doesn't cost anything, but it does make a paradigm shift. You have to think differently. You have to think differently than most schools do, right? You're going to maybe move from a disciplinary point of view to a mentoring point of view. So you're going to use multiple types and times and different types of assessments in your school. You're going to try and use surveys. You're going to get all of your stakeholders involved to find out how comfortable they feel in the building, and then work with your character education leadership team to try and find out what you can do to improve things. One of the things that happened at our school, it's very unique. My school is very unique. We service maybe 26 or 27 different languages, but yes, everyone's speaking English or they're trying to learn English, but when they go home, there's this multitude of different languages that they are using at home. And one of the things that we realized that the kids couldn't read the exit signs. They didn't know where the library was. They didn't know what those words were. So what we did was we made signs in many different languages for each different areas of our building so that the kids who really couldn't understand what that was. Now they could read it in their own language as well. So that has helped those children feel like they belong, because they can manage to get around and navigate the building without a whole lot of help, because they can read in their language what they're looking at. You have to think about the people who have traditionally or historically been excluded because of maybe race or gender or sexuality or ability, and think to yourself, how can we make it easier for them? Not that you have to point it out, but you just have to try and make an accommodation that helps them feel more comfortable. It's all about being inclusive and being comfortable. There are books and passages, there's texts that include all of these different people and celebrate differences. And it's nice that many of it is available on the children's level. Whatever level you're teaching, there is something available on that level that they would be able to understand and maybe build some empathy for the next person. Next slide, Bill. So it helps with the climate and culture of your building when everyone feels comfortable. So you say to yourself, well, what are some of the things that I can do? So for your staff, you can have in-services, you can build professional developments, you can do an ed camp, you can do PLCs, you can bring things to your faculty meetings, make sure your topics are timely, that it's not the same thing year after year. You want to try and liven it up and make it relevant. Make sure you're using the common language of good character. For instance, instead of saying to a teacher, please don't talk to the kids like that, you'll say, are you being respectful? Is there another way that we can handle discipline? What else can we do to help you? And you wind up with your staff coming on board. More and more people appreciate that you're willing to speak with them and talk to them and offer them suggestions, than to just have them be left with maybe a difficult class where they're feeling like they don't really know what to do next. Tap your staff experience. There are so many really, truly talented people in every building I've ever walked into. To not use their experience and their abilities is a waste of resources. Tap those experienced people and get them to help you build the climate and culture in your building. Offer webinars. Have them join one like these that they can join during the school day. Make sure your teachers have a voice and engage them into a conversation that helps them feel that what they're saying is actually part of what you're doing in your building. Students, morning meeting. One of the things that we have just decided to add in is restorative justice. We thought we were doing restorative justice until we really got into what restorative justice was. And then we changed some of the things that we did in our morning meeting to include many of the concepts from restorative justice. So it's been a really nice, I want to say, growth experience, not only for the staff, but for the students. The students truly appreciate being able to talk about what's going on in their lives. The simplest thing was, what's your number? And the kids had to pick a number from 1 to 10, 10 being extremely happy, 1 being extremely sad. And just that, being able to say what your number was, gave the kids an opportunity to have their voice heard and the teacher understand where they are, and maybe interact with a child who says, oh, gee, you know what, I'm a 2 today. That child needs a little bit of extra help that day, and you need to reach out to them. And just that was enough to make them feel more comfortable and more accepted in their school, and like they belonged and they were wanted and cared about. Think about it, forms when a student does something that is not quite a very good choice. And let's face it, we all work in schools. Children do things that they do dumb things all the time. So we need to be able to help them make better choices and to move forward rather than the disciplinary issue. Look at it as a mentoring issue and do a think about it for them. Have them be reflective. talk about a core value that they may have broken or maybe they weren't thinking about, and talk about what they could have done better and what they could choose to do next time rather than that poor choice. And moving again from discipline to mentoring makes a huge difference in your ability to reduce suspensions, you're reducing detentions, you're reducing disciplinary actions because you're mentoring. And that's a really good feelings when your children at your school know that you truly care enough about them to help them rather than discipline them in a different fashion. The expectations of respect and embed everything daily into your lessons can be done again without much of a cost. It's a matter of discussing character and expectations and SEL on a daily basis at every teaching moment that comes up. Leadership opportunities for students are huge. Create them. If you don't have many in your school, create extra ones. Find ways for these children to feel like they're a leader and that they can do something important. You can use student council. Another one that we've used is K-Kids, which is Kiwanis. It's a Kiwanis Kids program, but it helps our students grow leadership opportunities. Peer mediation, student voice and engagement. Again, it's the way that we accept our students into our building and encourage them to grow with SEL and character development. Your stakeholders, everyone who supports your school as a stakeholder, and you offer them all of the information that you can possibly get to them, and you include them in your character education committee, your climate and safety committee. Climate and safety committee, we all have to have a safety committee here in New Jersey. Invite them to be on it. Have your character education committee and your safety committee and your PTA all get together. Have a parent advisory committee. Ask for many volunteers. Ask for people to come into your school. Let them Zoom the room for Read Across America Week. If they can't make it to the building, put a Zoom together. Maybe they can read for 5 minutes from their workplace. Have your PTA look at National PTA School of Excellence. It offers them another way to come to school and be part of what happens here. Shows, concert, dances, STEAM and STEM nights. Yes, we have those things. Think outside the box and try really hard to get your school together as a community as often as possible. This will all help climate and culture. Mary, I think you're next.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, New Jersey Schools of Character. We have, as Bill said before, many schools of character every year. We are proud to say that since I remember, we're leading the nation in the state schools of character. Many of our schools are becoming recertified. So those are the schools that have been in the pike already. We would like to see some new schools come in also. And so we do recognize our schools every single year. We believe in this character education and SEL. We believe that it works. We believe that it changes schools, culture, and climate. New Jersey Schools of Character are dedicated to supporting social emotional learning, identifying core values, and use a comprehensive, intentional, proactive approach to developing character and creating a caring community. You can tell a school of character when you walk in the door. Everybody's involved in the process, as I mentioned before, from the secretaries to the custodians to the cafeteria workers, everyone, the teachers, kids, everyone understands that this is a safe, comfortable place to learn and grow. We talked a little bit about service learning before, but very important. Service learning is different than community service, and we are going to talk about that a little bit more later on too. But many schools do community service, but the idea behind service learning is to bring it back to the curriculum and have the students understand, why are you doing this community service? Okay, how does it affect people? How does it affect them as people? So that's an important part of your journey also. And make sure, somebody mentioned surveys and things like that. It's important that you involve your community, engage your families. Lori talked about all those things you can do with families. You want your parents to feel comfortable calling, coming to the school, and seeing the good things that are happening throughout the curriculum within your school. So it's a process you have to be dedicated to, and it takes a while to get all the information for your school character, but we're here to help you, and we'll talk about that later too. So good luck to everyone who's going to start the process. Bill, next slide.
We've been talking about this 11 principles framework, and I just wanted to take a moment just to give you an idea of how comprehensive this framework is. This framework has been around for quite some time, but it's gone through several iterations, and we've just finished doing a major revision of the 11 principles. I was on that the task force to do it, and what you'll see here, if any of you have done this work before, this represents the new set of principles. But I want you to, as we go through each one of them, and as I say, there are 11, as we go through each one, I want you to think about how comprehensive this approach would be if you would follow these and work with your school on these different principles. We all do agree, frankly, that the core values are pretty foundational. So it's a really good idea to start with principle 1, which is all about selecting a set of core values, how they define the behavioral expectations in the school, how everyone in the school models those core values for others. So we really think that's pretty foundational start. But you may not then necessarily have to proceed to principle 2 and go in order. So they're not hierarchical in that sense. But basically, principle 2 is thinking about an intentional, proactive, and comprehensive approach that embeds character into all aspects of the school, whether it's in the classroom, the hallways, the playground, on the bus, anywhere in the school. A school that is really doing this work, you should see evidence of all of that and an intentional effort to bring character and SEL skills, again, to stick with the SECD concept, into all aspects of school life. Principle 3 is really talking about 3 things: how students understand, how they care about character, and what the practices are. So in really representing the core values in the school. What you also see in this, you see many references to the concept of understanding being the head, being cared about as the heart, and practices being the hand. So we often hear about head, heart, and hand, which is thinking about, caring about, and doing something about how you represent character in your school community. Principle 4 is all about the school becoming a caring community where everybody feels that they belong. And this is a really important piece, particularly today, because we do find students feel like they're disconnected to the school. And that's not a good thing. And we nothing good comes from that. And so it's really important that everybody gets that sense of belonging. And how the adults in the school promote that, how the students promote that with each other is really important. The principle 5 is where we've talked about opportunities to practice and reflect on your character strengths. This is the piece where both community service and service learning come to the fore. Community service is great, but community service is not as, say, fulfilling as service learning, where the community service project begins with students learning about a particular issue or something in society that that could use some help, whether it's in the school, It could be in their classroom, it could be in the school, it could be in their municipality, or it could be in the greater world. And I've done a lot of service learning with schools and with kids, and I have found service learning because of that connection to be sometimes a real milestone in a student's academic career. So that's what 5 is about. 6 is about having a meaningful and challenging academic curriculum. This is where we talk about having differentiated instruction, being sure that there is something for everyone in the school, from those that that may have special needs to those who are particularly gifted, and all those in between. And does the student have a voice? Does the student ever get to decide any of their own educational goals? That's really important. If a student has some say in those educational goals, there's a greater likelihood that they'll achieve them. Principle 7 is all about motivation and, again, student engagement. Are students doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, rather than because they're getting an reward of some kind of thing, points or something like that? We really believe that the intrinsic rewards are much more valuable to a student in the long term. So that we look at that in 7. We also look at whether students have a voice in classroom routines and organizations. And the organizing the classroom, do they play roles? That's the start to student leadership. In Principle 8, we talking about leadership. This is for the adults. Primarily, do the adults have an opportunity to share in leadership in the school? Certainly teachers have a leadership function in their classroom. You can be a leader without having a title, but are we taking the step to tell teachers in the school that they have a say in school-wide issues, and that say is honored and respected? Principle 9 really talks about the responsibility for all staff to be working toward this character initiative in the school. And again, this is where we speak to a character education committee. Lori talked about those committees, also including parents. But that's an opportunity for staff voice, for parent voice, and student voice. And of course, you need to be proprietous about what issues are brought up for students and parents. And as you all know about the school climate and safety teams, there is some distinction there. But having a voice on those committees and making some decisions is important. 10 is about involving families and communities. And again, Lori gave you lots of information about that. But are you looking out to the wider community? Are you engaging, community institutions, community government? I know in Lori's school, they had a tremendous connection with the mayor of the town. And, having that connection speaks to the importance of the work. Are families engaged? Do you offer educational experiences for them? Do you welcome new families? These are all pieces of the puzzle. And Principle 11, which is probably where we could start. How do you know it's working? What steps do you take to find out what everybody thinks? Is your initiative making progress? Are you making changes based on what you find out when you ask people? Are you doing surveys? Are you doing polls? Do you have focus groups? So that is the 11 principles in a nutshell. And we think that when schools follow this, whether they decide to apply for schools of character or not, they make it a better place for everybody involved. So something that you can look at, there's a link here for the 11 principles, again, on the character.org website. So I encourage you to do that if you have an interest. So I'm going to turn it back over now to Lori, who's going to talk about how you can start to do this work.
Thank you, Bill. So it's a little overwhelming when you look and read all of this information that we've been given to you. And you can get on the websites, the different links, and you can read it yourself. But you say to yourself, well, what do I do first? Well, first get a group together you know, your champions, all the people who really think the same way as you do, that you think can make a difference, get them all together and have a conversation. What do your first steps look like? What do you think your school needs? Look to your core values first. How can we take core values and bring them into our school? What do our children need? What do we want our character education journey to look like as we move forward? What is our goal just for the next month? What is our goal for the next 3 months? What do we want to see happen by the end of the school year? Do we think the 11 principles are something that we really feel we can make use of in our school? Can we look at just some of the principles and see if we can put it together? It doesn't happen overnight. You have to plan. You have to make the first step. Start with something that has the likelihood of success. Start with core values. Look to see what your school needs and how you can bring it to the children and how you can bring it to your stakeholders and how you can take it and extend it to the staff.
Yeah.
The first step is always the hardest, but it's
Oh
the
yeah,
most
I'm doing that.
rewarding. So when you start, if you're worried, you can always call one of us. You can reach out to NJASECD. I know that there are many people who would be willing to help sponsor you or, you know, do outreach for you. So start and just look to one thing, pick one thing and start with that one thing. And from there it will grow. The next slide is Mary.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, we talked a little bit before about recertifying schools. You can be a state and national school character. You'll hold that designation for 5 years. And then you have to recertify, which is completing the application and resubmitting it. The new application process this year will be for the schools who were named in 2020, and they will become the 2025 schools of character. Make sure your new application reflects the revised principles. The newly revised principles that Bill just went over with you will be used for this new cycle coming up. And therefore there's no way you're never supposed to submit the same application anyway, but it has to conform to the new principles this year and reflect your current character initiatives. Make sure you've read all your areas of growth from your previous application 5 years ago and pay attention to those areas of growth and make sure you're letting us know how you've addressed those areas. Where at the places where you received the lowest scores, we'll be looking at that old score sheet, and we'll be using it to evaluate how well you've done in the past 5 years. Pay close attention to service learning. I mentioned it before, Bill mentioned it. It's very important that you don't just list all the community service that you've done, but how are your students learning from that community service? How is it being brought back into the classroom? Why are they helping out this organization? Do they understand that? That's principle 5, intrinsic motivation. We all like to give pizza parties or bagel parties or whatever, but it's important that the students do the right thing just because it's the right thing to do when no one's looking. So that's intrinsic motivation in principle 7. And principle 11, that's all of your data collection. Finding that schools struggle with that, but make sure you have good evidence to support why is this initiative working? What have you done to change in the last 5 years that's even better than it was 5 years ago? Okay, so principle 11, data collection. And to me, one of the most important things is outreach. Many schools outreach to other schools in their community, which is fine. And that's great. I love to see that. We did that in West Milford. But have you mentored another school outside of your district? Have you served as a scorer or evaluator? we every year we need new scores for the state and national schools of character. So we will take any volunteers who would love to learn the process. And please think about joining our organization, NJASECD. We have meetings every other month. We discuss, the newest trends in education, and our conference will be coming up in May, which Bill will talk about, and we'd love to have more volunteers. So all of that will help you to become a recertified school. And just one thing to keep in mind, it's not a given. You are reapplying. So make sure you do the great job that you did the first time. Okay, thank you.
Mary mentioned the conference, and we do an annual conference, and one of the things that we do is that we honor our schools that have been named schools of character, but we also have done a theme for each of our conferences. And this one is Character is the Core, Reconnecting with Respect, Responsibility, and Resilience. There are a number of sub headings for that. But this conference is coming up on May the 22nd. So if you want to learn more about this, this is certainly an opportunity to come down to Rider University and do that. Our registration is handled by NJPSA, FEA. They're a great partner for us, and as well as character.org and NJEA also. And we will be providing the registration details really within the next week or two. So you can look for that as well. Again, I'm going to re-emphasize that if you want information, please be sure that you put your contact information in the chat. If that way we'll know, who might be further interested, and we would be more than happy to reach out to you and certainly to provide you with these links with this PowerPoint. So our time is up. I'd like to thank SEL for New Jersey and Liz in particular for this opportunity today to share some information about the work that we do. We're very impassioned about it. And again, we look forward to reaching out and connecting with anyone here who is interested in doing the